Now then, boys, just wanted to do a quick video on the new game Thank Goodness You're Here that came out last week on Yorkshire Day. It's an amazing game. I highly recommend that everybody goes out and buys it and plays it. It's very, very funny, and notably, it's filled with references to Barnsley in Yorkshire and Northern England, which is quite a novelty. So, as someone who was born and raised in Barnsley, I thought I'd do a quick video pointing out some of the Barnsley references that I noticed, because I've seen a lot of talk online. It's been featured in BBC articles, radio interviews. But I think sometimes maybe the niche references go over the heads of the interviewers or the people writing the article. So I wanted to bring a bit of a Barnsley perspective to the whole thing and share some of the things that I noticed on my playthroughs. So to get started, the name of the town that the game is set in, Barnsworth, is seemingly inspired by Barnsley itself. It's obviously very similar to Barnsley, but something that people might not know is that the suffix worth, W-O-R-T-H, is also very common in and around the town. You've got places like Dodworth, pronounced Dodworth, Cudworth, pronounced Cudworth. And so it seems to me that when the developers were choosing a name for the town, Barnsworth probably seemed like a great place to start. And related to that, the town crest that's featured in the game, notably in the intro cutscene, but also all over the place in the town, is inspired by the real-life Barnsley town crest. The town crest that's featured in the game features a shield with two guys, one on either side, one of which is holding a miner's pickaxe, and the layout and colours are very, very similar to the Barnsley town crest, which features a miner and a glassblower, which in itself is a reference to two big industries that were well established in the town for many hundreds of years. Something that really tickled me, and I think when I noticed this, it gave me a kind of insight into what we were getting ourselves in for with the game, is the fictional town motto, Crassus in capite, translates to thick in the head, which is a reference to the old Yorkshire saying strong in arm, thick in head, which I thought was a crazy bit of attention to detail, and it's something that really sets you up for what's to come. Coming in at number 3, we've got the iconic Barnsley Town Hall making an appearance. Obviously, in game it's the Barnsworth Town Hall, but the Town Hall of Barnsley is a very distinct building, a really striking piece of architecture and a kind of central part of the Barnsley skyline, and it's something that appears in game. You start out in Barnsworth in the town hall itself, and you can see it in the skyline across different scenes, and I thought that was a fantastic thing to notice. My granddad always said that if he'd been away from town, he was driving back, he always had a pang of warmth when he saw the town hall, because it was something that was just so unmistakably part of the look and feel of the town, that you couldn't help know that you were home when you could spot it on the skyline. Number 4, lots of references to the Yorkshire dialect, but maybe specifically the Barnsley dialect throughout the game. You've got things like on car number plates, you've got the mam, translating of course to your mum, on cars and utility boxes around the town. I think when I first saw a trailer for the game, the thing that turned me on to the fact it was going to be relating to Barnsley was somebody using the word sen, which is something that you see in the West Riding of Yorkshire dialect, but it's not used widely outside of Barnsley anymore. And even little words, niche Yorkshire dialect words like ginnel, used throughout the game. I thought it was a really nice touch. I don't know how well it'll translate to international audiences, but certainly from my perspective it was a lovely thing to see and a lovely thing to experience in the game. Next up, we've got pump clips in the pub, which were a very niche reference to Acorn Brewery, which was a brewery, according to my online research, founded in 1996 in Barnsley. Acorn Brewery, taking its name, I'm guessing, from the nearby Oakwell, which is where Barnsley Football Club is based. Oak, Acorn, see the connection. But Acorn beers, certainly a few years ago, were found all over the town, and I think they were really ahead of the curve in terms of the real ale revolution. You'd find them way before you'd see a lot of the other breweries that came up later. And when you go into the pub in game in Barnsworth, all the pub clips are references to Acorn brewery beers, which I thought was an amazing touch. And it was something that I'm guessing a lot of people wouldn't necessarily notice unless you have spent a lot of time in Barnsley. Another little thing, the Barnsley area code 01226 makes an appearance. It is seen on some of the in-game TV ads, and also you actually have to dial it on Big Ron's phone. I think when you call in for pie mix or something like that. And as soon as you start hitting the numbers on the phone, I just knew it was going to be 01226. It was just so in keeping with other little nods in the game that it couldn't be anywhere else, really. The market area in the game, both the indoor market with the fishmonger and the outdoor market, is very reminiscent of the famous Barnsley market. As my grandparents always used to tell me, Barnsley Market was a real tourist attraction back in the day. People would come up on buses from all over the country to visit the legendary massive Barnsley Market and get a bit of all sorts and get some bargains. And I thought it was only fitting that a very similarly styled market appeared in the game. And it's also one of the big locations in the game. There's all sorts of interesting stuff happens around there. In the market itself, you do see a reference to Toby Tyke, the old Barnsley FC mascot. He can be found on the toy stand down at the bottom of the area in balloon form, and also he appears in the Milk Kids bedroom. There is a framed Tony Tyke signature, which again, a very niche Barnsley reference. I think it was something that I'd noticed again on one of the trailers, Tony Tyke. I thought, bloody hell, we're in for a good time here, boys. Sticking on the Barnsley FC theme, you can see old school Barnsley FC shirts. I think the character Fathead is wearing an old Admiral branded shirt. You can see the little brand logo proudly sat there on his chest. And once again, it was just one of those little details that you couldn't help but notice as somebody from the town. Something that you can see from the very start of the game is references to Thatcher. There's graffiti on the floor and walls, things about Thatcher Milk Snatcher, and later on, Ding Dong the Witch is Dead. The hatred for Thatcher blazed very brightly in the town, and I would say it still does to this day, just because of the important place that Barnsley played in the mining strikes back in the day. It was one of the epicentres of the strike activity and the kind of struggle between the government and the miners. And that's reflected as well in the fact that there is a reference to Arthur Scargill, the famous union leader, union organiser, who was from Barnsley, and also equally played a big part in the strikes that went on in that period. So seeing those references was a lovely touch. And especially because I think the game is set in theory in the 1980s, although it does seem to hop all over the place with some of the technology and references. But that just adds to the charm of the fictional town of Barnsworth. And now I would say, just to round off with some of the Barnsley references, there are little details like when you can see the landscape behind you at various points in the game when you're kind of flying up on balloons or carried off by a bird. You can see the famous pithead from the mine, big iconic towers, which certainly were all over Barnsley back in the day. As far as I know, there maybe is one or two still standing, but you do see them across the town and in little villages that have now been deconstructed and used as memorials and little features. And equally, you see the cooling towers, the famous cooling towers that used to be up by the motorway in Sheffield as you were driving towards Meadowhall. That's something that anyone who lived in Barnsley or South Yorkshire would definitely recognise. No longer with us, unfortunately. Got pulled down, but they were certainly an iconic part of the Sheffield skyline, and it was great to see them in game as well. I would say that's it for some of the Barnsley specific references. I did notice as well, obviously, loads of general Yorkshire references. You've got Hiltley Moor Bartat playing at various points. You've got the Yorkshire Rose all over the place, and the back of the beer truck, and on benches and all that kind of thing. And even down to just some of the the little sayings that people mention. There's one of the characters saying something like "quick in head, black in lung, smoking's best when you start it young," being a reference to the old Yorkshire saying "strong in arm, thick in head," which, as we mentioned earlier, is reference on the Barnsworth town crest. As I said, I'm sure there's loads and loads of references that I've missed. I'm sure there's some stuff that's very specific to the people in and around Barnsley that the developers knew. But I think that'll do it for now. It's a fantastic game. Recommend anybody who's interested going and checking it out, because you can pick it up at a good price. I think you're doing a great thing by supporting a small development studio that the boys have founded. That's it for now. Who knows, I might do a follow-up if I come across anything else. But if not, I'll see you soon.